All right, let's dive straight into this explainer on how our daily habits fundamentally create the outcomes in our lives. We live in a world that is just constantly trying to sell us shortcuts and easy fixes. But today, we're going to explore why taking the hard road is actually the absolute most efficient way to get exactly where you want to go.
So let me ask you something. Is life supposed to be easy? We kind of default to expecting things to be fair, don't we? We look around when things get tough and think, why is this happening to me? This just isn't fair. But what if the single most important shift you can make is realizing that life is inherently hard, and that's actually a feature, not a bug? Our sources point out that a massive source of our own frustration is just our baseline expectation that things should be easy. The reality? Life is a testing ground. It's literally built to make us harder, to test us, and to drive our growth.
There's this fantastic scene mentioned in our sources from the classic movie Lawrence of Arabia that illustrates this perfectly. A character lights a match, pinches it out with his bare fingers, and doesn't even flinch. Someone else tries to copy him, instantly burns his fingers, and yells out asking what the trick is. Lawrence just looks at him and says, "The trick is not minding that it hurts." And man, that applies to almost everything we do. There is a cost to pay for absolutely any worthwhile endeavor. The real trick isn't finding some clever way to avoid the cost. It's figuring out what that cost is and simply deciding you're willing to pay it.
Because here's the undeniable truth of it all. Pain is guaranteed. And constantly trying to avoid it, well, that just makes life harder in the long run. We spend so much of our energy running away from discomfort, constantly searching for painkillers to numb bad situations. But the true alchemy of life is taking those terrible situations and basically twisting the knife to force your own growth. It's looking directly at your pain and saying, okay, I'm going to do something about this. It's about using that exact discomfort as the ultimate fuel to push yourself forward.
Now check out this really fascinating contrast between relying on fleeting feelings versus building true resilience. On one hand, you have the emotionally immature approach, which is desperately seeking out a quick burst of motivation just to do something hard one single time. But on the other hand, the emotionally mature approach uses discipline to do that hard thing 1,000 times. They aren't sitting around waiting for inspiration to suddenly strike, they just rely on sheer repetitive execution.
So the really crucial takeaway here is that emotional maturity is all about leaning into your discipline precisely when conditions are absolutely suboptimal. Think about it. When you get a terrible night of sleep, when your perfectly planned schedule completely falls apart, or when it's just miserable outside, those established habits are what keep you moving forward. If you lack that maturity, your emotions just completely hijack your motion. How you feel dictates what you do next, which is incredibly damaging if you're trying to actually achieve something meaningful.
Let's break down exactly how this builds over time, because our daily choices carry a pretty harsh reality. Doing what's easy, complaining, playing the victim, giving up when it gets tough, literally anyone can do that. But choosing that easy path absolutely guarantees a perpetually hard life later on. Conversely, choosing the hard path, showing up every single day, building the routine, taking rejection on the chin, that forces you to grow. It basically ensures that when the next big challenge comes knocking, you are primed and ready for victory.
To really understand how to execute this kind of disciplined life, we have to look at time as our ultimate currency. I want you to imagine stepping up to the roulette table of life every single morning. The dealer hands you exactly 24 chips. That's it. That is the entire center point of your daily influence.
So let's do the math. If sleep takes, say, 8 of those chips, you wake up with 16 left. And exactly how you allocate those remaining daily chips dictates every single outcome in your future. No exceptions. If you deliberately place 2 chips on your health and 14 on pursuing your goals, you are actively betting on your own growth. That wheel spins every single day, and the returns you get in life are just a direct, mathematical result of where you chose to place your chips.
And that brings us right to the core definition of what discipline actually is. It is not some magical genetic trait that you're either born with or you aren't. It's so much simpler than that. Discipline is just the mechanical process of systematically placing your time chips on behaviors that align with your highest values, completely regardless of how you feel on any given day. It's just the repetitive act of making deposits into the bank of your own future. Now, building this machine isn't about some overwhelming overnight transformation. That never works anyway. It is a super simple, pragmatic protocol. First, just pick 1 or 2 small things you can actually change today. Second, master them through daily repetition. And third, pick 1 or 2 more, and just repeat the whole process. You're just stacking small wins. Yes, it's supposed to be hard, but taking it one tiny step at a time is exactly how you make the impossible totally achievable.
But here is where the rubber really meets the road. We like to think we rise to the occasion when people are watching, but the truth is, we fall to the standards we have when absolutely no one is watching.
The only work that actually matters, the work that proves who you really are, rather than who you just say you are, that happens in the dark. It happens when there's no applause, no audience, and definitely no one patting you on the back.
To actually thrive in that dark space, you've got to make this rhythmic, completely non-negotiable pact with yourself. It starts with, I will do the work, even if I'm tired. You have to push forward when your mind is just totally drained and your body feels heavy. You execute simply because you gave yourself your word.
And that pact continues. I will do the work, even if I'm sick. You maintain the momentum of those habits, even when your physical health is literally screaming for a break. Because honestly, success doesn't care about your excuses, and the world isn't going to stop spinning just because you aren't at 100% today.
And finally, I will do the work, even if it's freezing cold outside, or if it's too hot, or if literally no one else wants to do it with you. You execute the plan despite every single environmental excuse trying to coax you back into bed. You step outside your comfort zone because you are driven by your purpose, not by what's convenient.
You know, people love to look at successful individuals and say, wow, must be nice. But they never see the massive list of unseen sacrifices behind the scenes. They don't see the years, literally years, endured without any reward. They don't see the tedious, mind-numbing tasks that everyone else found too boring to do, or the comfortable seasons sacrificed while friends were out partying. They don't hear the deafening silence of ignoring critics while working with your head down. Behind every single must-be-nice comment is a warrior who is just willing to be the hardest worker in the room.
Which brings us to this really fascinating psychological phenomenon. Sigmund Freud famously noted that, in retrospect, the struggle will strike you as most beautiful. When you finally get to look back on your journey, the human mind actually integrates your absolute worst, most gruelingly hard moments into your proudest achievements. You quickly realize that you literally couldn't be the person you are today if you hadn't walked straight through that intense fire.
And that highlights this profound realization for us. The ultimate output isn't the external reward. It's who you become along the way. The true gift of stacking all these difficult daily habits isn't just finally getting your dream job or the big house or the status. It's that the constant, grinding resistance forces you to become a fundamentally stronger, highly capable version of yourself. The hard work isn't just the path, the hard work itself is the goal.
So, since everything worthwhile comes with a cost, and since we've clearly established that pain is completely unavoidable in this life, I want to leave you with this final provocative question to carry with you today. Which pain are you going to choose? Are you going to choose the pain that hurts you, the pain of regret, of staying stagnant, of playing the victim? Or will you choose the pain that changes you, the pain of discipline, of growth, and relentless hard work? The choice is entirely in your hands. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to step up to the table today and place your daily chips with purpose.